Just getting ready to sail out to the Mentawai. The weather's a little bit all over the place. The forecasts completely and utterly disagree. One says we're going to have beat, so the wind on the nose. Another one says we're going to have a wind dead astern. Another one says no wind whatsoever. We're just going to have to go out there and see what happens. So whistling through the rain, we're howling downwind towards where we need to go. 75 miles off the coast of Sumatra lies an island chain which is world famous. The Mentawai Islands are a chain of low-lying islands fringed with palm tree shaded white sand beaches, turquoise waters and coral reefs. Those reefs are pounded by a swell which starts in the Southern Ocean and off of Africa and travels all the way across the Indian Ocean. The swell, combined with the reefs and the gentle to non-existent wind in this area, creates what the islands are famous for: world-class waves for surfing.
We could not cruise this area and miss checking in on the Mentawai Islands. But to get there will be an overnight sail through the thundery squalls which are a regular occurrence this close to the equator. We are Matt and Amy. Together with our 37-foot yacht Florence, we are circumnavigating the world, sharing the adventure along the way.
The wind's already switched through 90 degrees just whilst we were pulling the anchor up, so it's going to be a little bit all over the place. Yeah, that's caused by that rain cloud that's over there that suddenly started raining and kicking out wind this way, so you don't complain when you've got wind on the equator though.
We're setting out from the port city of Padang, where we've been to extend our visas for another month. We plan to spend that month out in the Mentawai Islands.
There's nowhere near as much breeze as we thought there would be out here, but at least there's some.
Yeah, we were planning to get the staysail out but and rig that up, but I'm glad that we didn't. We've got more of a spinnaker angle at the moment.
It's going to be 76 miles, which is too far for us to go during daylight hours, especially at the slow speed we go with light winds. So we're going to go overnight. So we're just setting off in the afternoon and we should be there tomorrow morning, hopefully.
It's always exciting sailing offshore to somewhere new.
Well, sail for 3 miles.
2 knots.
The wind was very patchy to start with, but once we cleared the coast we had very nice conditions indeed. As we sail further from the city, the water turns from brown to a deep blue. The horizon empties, and a bucket shower on deck is the perfect way to cool off. It's been over a year since we last had a hot freshwater shower, but on days like this, nothing beats the simplicity of drenching yourself in buckets of salt water and drying off in a warm, gentle breeze. caught something?
Yeah, probably not. Probably plastic. I saw we sailed past a whole bunch of plastic in the water and then the line's gone a bit. Yeah, we caught a plastic bag. Normal catch around here. This is why we don't bother fishing as often, because we just catch plastic and don't catch fish.
Such a lovely evening for a sail. You can see that we've dodged most of the thunderstorms that are happening on the coast of Sumatra. You can see all the rain squalls in the distance, and over the last few nights we've had really heavy thunderstorms at night, so hopefully it'll all stay over Sumatra and we will get nice clear skies this evening. It's just after 6, so it's time to start our watches, which means I go to bed and Matt enjoys the sunset, but sails the boat for the first 3 hours and then he'll wake me up and we'll swap over.
Sailing into the sunset, going west again. I haven't gone west for a long time.
Can't see anything. It's a bit concerning. We're just coming out through the outer islands off Padang, and I was about to go to bed and our depth reader started showing 8 meters. The least it's got down to is 6, but unfortunately the sun is just going down and the light's too low for me to be able to see whether that is the true depth. I can't see anything on the bottom, but it doesn't really mean anything in this light. It's a bit concerning going into the night knowing that either there's something wrong with our depth sounder or there's something massively wrong with the charts, which is to be expected in lots of places, but so close to Padang, they're actually pretty accurate, so not entirely sure what's going on here. We've just turned the instruments off and on again, and that doesn't seem to have made any difference. The closest depth sounding is 119 meters.
But it looks like it's not working. Turning it off and on again doesn't fix it. I don't know whether it's going to be the head or the unit that's built into the bottom of Florence. But sailing around in poorly charted waters without a depth gauge, it's not ideal. The only thing I can really do is take it apart, disconnect and reconnect all the connections, check they're clean. If it's the head unit, we could potentially buy a new one or something and plug the unit that's built into the bottom of Florence in, but if it's the bit that's built into the hull, then we need to be lifted out of the water to do that. And you can't get lifted out here in Indonesia, so we'd have to go for a few months without one. Not a problem in the middle of the ocean, but it's definitely a problem when you're going in to new anchorages in the islands. So joys of being out in remote areas on a boat. It's all good until something goes wrong, and then you really are on your own, and it's very difficult to get parts and to fix things.
Okay, good night.
Night night. Sleep tight. See you in 3 hours.
We haven't even got to the end of my off watch, and all of that rain and thunder and lightning is now heading this way. So we just had 35 knots coming from the opposite direction, so we're now going dead downwind. We had a bit of a hairy roundup to drop the mainsail, and now we've got a tiny scrap of Genoa out and we're still doing about 6 knots. You never really know what the weather's going to do out here. Well, you can pretty much guarantee that you're probably going to get thunder and lightning at some point.
35, we did have 35, 30 now. So it's whistling through the rig and we're howling downwind towards where we need to go. It went from 5 knots of wind to 20 pretty quick, and then up to 35. I was going to put a reef in. Amy quite correctly made the call to pull the mainsail all the way down. So it's now tied around the boom, and we've just got a little bit of Genoa out, which is actually smaller than the size of our storm jib will be, but we don't really need much. We'll just ride this out now. At least it's nice flat water, it's pretty calm and protected in here between Sumatra and the islands. So all this is doing is helping us get where we want to go a little bit faster than we were going.
35 knots isn't really that much wind, but it is when you've got full sail up. So yeah, that was a bit hairy, trying to get that down in time.
When the weather is unsettled like this, our watch pattern gets thrown out the window. From here on through the night, we just tried to look after each other, and whoever was most awake stood watch. During a period of bad weather at sea, we always keep in mind that the only predictable thing about the weather is that it will change.
We're back to lovely sailing conditions again this morning. Had a gorgeous sunrise and I can just see the Mentawai Islands ahead of us. They're really low lying, so they're difficult to spot. You can just see that the horizon is lumpy. But we're only about 15 miles away now, and the wind is back, so we're sailing again. We unfortunately had to motor for a couple of hours because after that big squall went through and it started raining, it took all of the wind with it, so we were with a leftover swell and not very much wind. So luckily that only lasted a few hours. Matt's been able to get some sleep this morning, and I've had I think about 2 hours, but we should be able to get some rest when we get there.
So here we are in the Mentawai Islands. Looks like the depth gauge seems to start working again here now as well, so fingers crossed that'll work when we get into the anchorage. So we're just coming into slightly shallower waters. We've got 105 metres. So maybe it was just there was some strange layer in the water that was causing the echo sounder to bounce off it and give us those shallow readings, because it did stop after a little while. So that's a massive relief, if that is working, although I don't fully trust it anymore. Rather than a lot of the anchorages we've been exploring in the islands, these anchorages are actually in the pilot guide, so we have some information on them and roughly how deep they're supposed to be. It's a little bit less stressful coming in somewhere where you've got a bit more information about it. But it should be pretty well charted here because the ferry comes in here a lot, so it tends to be where commercial shipping goes. The charts tend to be a lot better.
Even got channel markers here, although that one's high on the reef, so I wouldn't want to get too close to it.
The Mentawais are famous with surfers the world over for the amazing waves they have here that roll in unhindered from the Indian Ocean. But for us, we're going to be looking for something a little bit smaller, so hopefully we can get these surfboards out, which we haven't had out for a while now. Find something that's a little bit more beginner-like that we can have a go on without scaring ourselves silly. Some people we've spoken to said oh yeah, we learned how to surf in the Mentawai, and then when you talk to them a little bit more, they also, broke bones learning to surf in the Mentawai. So yeah, we need to find something a little bit safer, easier, less risky. As you can see, we're not the only boat in the anchorage. There are actually 5 other sailing yachts here, and then across the way there's actually another couple of surf charter boats as well. So there's quite a few boats here, which is really strange for us. One of the other boats is Mai Tai. This one here, who we know from Isolation Bay because we spent so much time isolated there at the start of the pandemic. The other boats here are actually expats who live here. They really like surfing and they come and live here on their boats. Some of them have got jobs here, not sure what the others do, but they all enjoy surfing. So they're long term here, they're not cruising around the world. Mai Tai, like us, will be probably off to the Seychelles in a month or so.
When we first went ashore here, we made 2 new friends wandering along the beach. So we're going ashore to see if we can meet up with them again.
Oh, we got some friends!
I love dogs, but there's no way that we could have one without lifestyle on board Florence. Not to mention all of the extra paperwork that would be required every time we entered a new country.
Hello, how are you? Hello.
So when these 2 ran up to us and offered to take us for a walk around their island, I was in heaven.
Got your dog fix, Amy?
Yeah, Zoe.
Walking along the beach, we passed several empty resorts that would normally cater to surfers. There are loads of empty resorts in the islands around here. In this part of the Mentawai, it's absolutely world famous for surfing and the waves they have here. But of course, because Indonesia's borders are currently closed to foreigners, no one can get in. So the only people surfing here are the locals that live here, or the expats that own and run the resorts, or some expats who live in Bali who can come up and move internally in Indonesia. So it's obviously terrible for the resorts. They're having to keep on the staff because you have to keep maintaining these places in the tropics, otherwise they just fall apart in no time. But they've had no guests for a whole season, and some of them have already decided that they're going to stay closed for this season as well because they don't think it's going to be worth opening with the way travel's going. So terrible from that point of view, but those same people are absolutely loving having the waves to themselves, just empty waves. Normally there will be loads of people here staying in all the resorts, and surf charter boats coming over from Padang as well, so the waves apparently get really crowded, but now they go out and there's barely anyone else here at all. Great for us to see it and be able to experience it nice and quiet without the crowds. I think it would be a very different experience if it was busy with boats buzzing around all over the place and lots of surfers. It'd be quite interesting to see it that way too, I guess. Just hope that these guys can survive through and get back on their feet when travel does pick up again. Surf dog! Well, we'd have liked to have ended this episode with actually going and finding some of those amazing Mentawai waves ourselves, but what we do is always dictated by the weather living on a boat, and right now the weather is dictating that we hide in this mangrove hole from the weather because it's been like this on and off for kind of a week now. There's actually weather warnings out here, fishermen are banned from going out, and the wind has been howling through the rigging all night. So we've got no choice but to kind of sit here. Hopefully, next time the weather will improve.
At least we don't have to ration fresh water usage at the moment.
Just can't dry anything.
No, everything's damp. Oh well.
Next time, the weather switches back to intense equatorial sunshine, and we head out to explore a new island. Having now spent a year stuck on the equator, we'll share what it's really like to live on a boat under the blazing sun, and why it's not always as glamorous as the camera makes out. We want to say a huge thank you to everybody who supported us, either via the PayPal link on our website or via Patreon. Whether it was to buy us a beer or contribute to upgrading our camera equipment, it all makes a huge difference to our ability to continue sharing this adventure. Of course, we want to say a special thank you to our star patrons.